What up? We are back. Got a new intro. Shout out to my cousin Anitra doing what she does. But we're excited. We have a awesome interview with what I believe is a Hall of Famer. I know JUCO also believes the same. They are the National JUCO Team of the Week, which is Moberly Area Community College, and the head coach is Coach Pat Smith. So we're gonna hang out for a little bit. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great. And Brian, I just want to thank you personally for the great prayer you gave to start this interview. That's something that's really a tremendous human and spiritual touch, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Coach. Appreciate you acknowledging and excited to have you on. So let's talk about the week. We'll talk about the year, the team, your career. But this week, you happen to be named National JUCO Team of the Week, and you played against a top 5 opponent, was able to get a win and get 2 wins out of the week. But the big one was the top 5 team in your battle against Indian Hills. Talk a little bit about this week and how you guys were able to do it.
Well, just a tremendous start to our second semester. You know, we kind of went up there at the end of the first semester and we'd won the Highland tournament 5 out of 6 years. And we just really shot the ball so poorly against Sauk Valley. It was very disappointing. We got beat up there. Came back and won our next 2 games, and we talked about that being the start of our second semester. And our guys came back, that we don't give them any option. Coming back late is not an option. And everybody back on time. I thought we did a great job of getting in the gym, going back to work. I thought we were prepared to play against Indian Hills, but I tell you, that was it's been really tough for us to win down there. And there's been a couple of major reasons for that, to be honest, Brian. One is how good they are every year. And the second is they might overlook somebody else or not overlooking Moberly. And we'd struggled some down there. And so to get a win down there was tremendous. I thought our kids were so resilient start to finish and just did a really solid job of playing basketball in the right way for 40 minutes.
Yeah, Coach, what is it about kind of that game and that matchup? Obviously, you know, you love to play in the big games and play against other well-coached programs and other talented teams. What is it about that kind of game that you think brings the best out of your group?
Well, I think our kids were ready to play, and I think our kids just really focused in on the fact, okay, we stubbed their toes a couple times early, and I think they had a complete focus of going down there. And we talked a lot about this, man. We don't focus a lot on the opponent. We focus on ourselves. We believe our system is good enough that if we do it, we execute it, we're going to be okay. And when we played John Logan in early December, I thought we focused a little bit too much on them. And we really, and you know, you work for a guy that I think is probably one of the best JUCO coaches I've ever seen in Ross Hodge, who's at North Texas now. You know, you all ran the motion. You played your man-to-man defense. You had your things you did. And we have our things that we do. And we felt like more importantly than anything else, we talked to our guys about this. Indian Hills is so good, but it's really going to depend on 40 minutes of Greyhound basketball. We were able to go down there and play a really good, hard, solid 40 minutes. And, you know, to be honest, it was kind of interesting. They made a couple of runs, but we did a great job of answering them. We kind of controlled the game. So probably in terms of overall victories, it's one of the sweetest I've had. And with that said, hopefully we'll have quite a few more this year.
Yeah, well said. I'm glad you referenced the good old days. I got a chance to coach against a Pat Smith team and Trinity Valley and Paris Wars back in the day. And I think when I think of Pat Smith teams, you know there's going to be toughness. You know there's going to be a certain level of relentlessness that you're going to have to outwork. You know, you're going to have to go in there and beat a Pat Smith team. They're not going to beat themselves. You're going to have to earn everything you get, and you're going to have to play 40 minutes. And so I'm imagining that Moberly is similar to what we coached against in those Trinity Valley teams. Talk a little bit about the culture of what makes Moberly area community college men's basketball what it is.
Well, first of all, we try to recruit good kids. One thing I've always told my assistants, if a kid doesn't have some character and integrity, probably not going to make it for us because I have time dealing with that. We'll work with kids, man. I'm big on that.
Right.
Everybody needs to get to the next level, including myself. With God's help, I'm gonna try to get better today than I was yesterday. But we really want good character in their program, and we want a bunch of guys that come in and basically want to go to class, be good people off the court. And basketball needs to be important to you here because we spend a lot of time at it. We have high demands. I mean, even this morning, we had a 35, 40-minute film session on nothing but us. Even though we were playing well and even though we gathered a lot of respect this year, there's so many things we can do better. And I always talk to our kids about three things: play hard, play smart, play together. And I said the fourth thing, do all three of those things consistently. And that's what we're after with our team. We want to be that every possession team, man. You know, we had to drag out hard practice yesterday because during the season, as you know, Brian, it's kind of hard to get those sometimes. And we were off on Sunday, and I wanted our kids yesterday. I told them, I want you to burn a little bit. I want you to hurt a little bit.
Yep.
Because we have to get in that habit, man, that we understand our culture and identity. We were talking about the University of Houston, Kelvin Sampson.
Yep.
You don't want to play against them defensively.
Yep.
I mean, they're going to come at you. Their closeouts, their ball screen defense. They hedge ball screens so hard, kind of like Tony Bennett does it at Virginia. You don't even want to come off of them.
Right.
So we talked to our kids about being that type of team, man, being that team that nobody wants to play against. And we do it a few different ways, as you know from having coached against me. We press.
Yeah.
But, you know, our big thing is getting stops. And we put a tremendous stock on defensive transition. We're not giving up points in transition. And if we give points up in transition, you're coming out. We've got a kid starting for him right now, but I always use the Bobby Huggins motto, man. In practice, baseline. In games, bench. Doesn't mean we don't love you. We do.
Yeah.
But we want the accountability.
Yep.
I've always said, when you get to the point where you don't want to be the guy to mess the equation up, that's when you really become a good team. Yep. When your accountability, A, to yourself, yep, and B, to your team gets to be that. Yep. And so we preach that stuff all the time. And don't get me wrong, we played another really good team Saturday night, Southwestern Illinois. We have a good team, in my opinion, coming into Martin State Fair. And as much as respect as I have for those teams in Indian Hills, it's never about them. It's about us.
Yep.
Let's do us. Let's do what we do, and we'll live with the outcome.
Yep. Yeah, Coach, you have a long career of doing this, a long successful career. And again, in my opinion, a no-brainer Hall of Fame career, 40 years in coaching, a lot of wins, a lot of championships, a lot of players moved on to the next level, a lot of lives changed. Talk a little bit about your journey. How did you get into this basketball thing? How did you get into JUCO? How do you, talk about somebody who represents junior college basketball. You've been in 4 different decades of junior college basketball. So we're going to dive into that. But, you have to have a passion and a love for the transformation of young people. So talk a little bit about that and how you kind of got into your career, if you don't mind.
I'll tell you when it really hit me, Brian, was about 2 weeks ago when one of my ex-players called me. And you well know you love to hear from ex-players.
Absolutely.
And I always tell our guys, don't take this the wrong way. I don't really care what you think of me right now, but do me a favor. When you get 28, call me and let me know. And I would really like to know then how you enjoyed the experience.
Right.
And it's funny, some of the guys I struggled the most with that had to work the hardest to get through are the guys that religiously stay in touch with me.
And they loved it the most because they can draw back to that and what they need to be successful as young men, I'm imagining, going forward.
Well, the other day I had one of my ex-players call me and says, "Coach, you got to take a look at my grandson." I thought, wow. Oh man, that was kind of a slap in the face. I've been doing this a long time because it doesn't seem like that long ago this young man played for me, but it was 30-something years ago.
Wow.
And so anyway, I don't know. I was sitting in my locker room. I played at Bluefield College, Bluefield, Virginia, and I was very fortunate to play college basketball because I wasn't all that talented. But I'm sitting in the locker room one day, and I thought, I've been around basketball my entire life. My grandpa was a coach. My dad was a coach. And so I had a chance to just sit there one day and say, what am I going to do? I'm majoring in business. Really don't know what I want to do. And I said, I'm going to really miss this. I'm going to miss being a part of a team. And I think that's when I started thinking about going into coaching. And, I was lucky enough to get a local junior college job in Kentucky. And I've always said, the first 2 junior colleges I ever coached at are no longer in business. I don't know if I had any part in that. That's probably debatable. They're no longer colleges. And so I was able to go ahead and win at a few places. I was lucky enough to get a job at Wabash Valley College, which was a tremendous springboard
Yep.
to my career. There's a couple of times I probably jumped around that I maybe should have stayed put, trying to decide if I really wanted to move up. Went to University of Miami thanks to the courtesy of Coach Leonard Hamilton, and I'll never trade anything for that experience, but I always missed being a JUCO coach. And, it's kind of funny. When I was Division One, it was almost like it was a little bit more of a business, Brian, than it was just being involved in the players' lives. And then when I got to Bemidji State in Minnesota, this is nothing against these kids, but I remember coaching some seniors that were already thinking about what they wanted to do with their lives. And that's great, But, man, I miss those JUCO days when those guys had an edge about them.
Right.
Man, I want to get Division One.
Yep.
Coach, I want to be in the gym all the time because I really want to take my career as far as I can take it.
Right.
And I kind of miss that.
Yeah.
And so I have been perfectly content every single day being a JUCO coach. And I tell you, it's like I told you before we started, it's not about the games. It's about the practices. It's about the film sessions. To me, it's always about the journey, man. What are you going to do through the ups and downs, the bus ride, the valleys, the peaks? What are you going to do to go ahead and keep a mindset, an attitude of perseverance?
Right.
And been fortunate enough over the years, for the most part, I think, to get that through to our players. And, it's kind of like when anytime that I have a chance, and I know you've been there, of watching one of your kids play on TV and realizing the practices where maybe he didn't care much for you. Didn't like what you were saying, but yet, in the end, he realized, hey, it helped me make me a little better player, better person, better student. That's what makes it worthwhile.
Absolutely. Well said. Well said. And now you get to be an AD as well, and you get to hire other coaches. What's kind of your mentorship role like with that, and what do you like to look for in the coaches that you hire? Because it's a way of you paying it forward too. You get to help mold some coaches and help build some coaches and pay some of those lessons on that you've learned. What's that experience been like, and what advice do you have for young coaches?
I don't differentiate any different than I do from our players, Brian. I want good people. I want people who have a tremendous commitment to excellence, very knowledgeable about their sport. And, we just started 2 new sports this year, and I'm real happy with the coaches I hired, baseball and softball. But I think it was 5 years ago, probably, we hired Hannah Hayden, who you're very aware of.
Yeah. It's my girl.
For any D1 ADs out there, you need to think about her. She's something else.
Yep.
She's just a heck of a. In fact, I can hear her out there in the gym right now. She's a
real deal.
She's a real deal. And so we try to hire the best coaches we can, because what I want more than anything else, I want a pursuit of excellence in every sport we have, not only in terms of winning and losing, but just how we run our programs. And so far, thanks, we get unbelievable support here at Moberly from our administration, from our board, from our community. And so it's real important that we bring players in who are going to reflect so positively on the college, on the community. And I think we've assembled a good coaching staff. And this is a little bit new for me now. When I was AD at Trinity Valley, I think I had 6 or 7 sports, but I've got 4 sports now. Sometimes I'll look up and there's people outside my office now other than players, which is a little bit different, which is good.
That is good. That is good. Coach, tell the people that don't know about Moberly Area Community College. I asked you the same question because I hadn't actually been there. It's not a place I've recruited before or competed against. What is that community place, game day, every day, academic? What's the environment? What's the place like? How would you describe it?
Here's how I'll describe it. I was here from 01 to 04, and we ended up, I think, 3 out of 4 years and won the region. And the team I actually left here ended up being national runner-up, and I always regretted that. Probably wish I'd been with them one more year. But when I left here, I always missed game night, Brian. I missed walking out here, and I missed the atmosphere. We're a Midwestern town of 12, 13, 14,000 people.
Where is Moberly area for those that don't know, Coach?
It is exactly between St. Louis and Kansas City. We are 30 miles from Columbia, from the University of Missouri. And it's off the beaten path a little bit. But the program is so important to the people here. I mean, we have basically 3,000 box seat arena out here, and we draw great here. I can't go downtown without somebody wanting to talk about our program. And I'll tell you, our kids, sometimes I have to tell them, the boosters will tell you how great you are. I'll give you the other half of it. And because our booster support here is tremendous, we have a booster club to meeting tonight, and we have a coaches report, and all this stuff means so much to these people here, and it makes it a fun place to coach at. And I'll tell you, I've had a lot of kids that went on and played Division I ball. I've had, I think, right now 185 that went on and played D1. Probably about
Wow.
40 to 50 some from here during my two tenures.
Wow.
We had 5 last year ago, and they'll go on and have good D1 careers, Brian, and they'll call me back. And they'll say, Coach, I had a good time at so-and-so university. I got to play on Big Monday. But, man, it was never as fun as it was at Moberly.
Yep.
And, it's interesting over the years, all the ex-players that come back. Now, some of the guys that have played here, Mitch Richmond, Gerald Wilkins. We've had, I think, around 19 or 20 that have played in the NBA. We actually had one of our players last year playing the NBA, Jay Sean Page, played at West Virginia. Here's some of the coaches we've had. I'm going back a long time. Con Fitzsimmons, Charlie Spooner, a guy named Maury Johns that went on to coach at Iowa State. Back in the 80s, we had a young guy named Dana Altman that was the head coach here. Had a guy named Mitch Richmond. Had some really good teams. So there's just a tremendous tradition here. And it means a lot to these people. And, it's kind of interesting. The president of our booster club now is a former player of mine. So it's really nice to get those young people involved. And, you coached at a special place too, Paris. I mean, I used to remember the electric atmosphere in that gym when we went there to play. And that's what makes JUCO basketball fun. And I guess that's why I'm a lifer.
Yeah, I love the fact that you touched on a few things I love. So JUCO, I feel like most guys I coached in JUCO had more of a fun experience overall. They love Division I. They love the travel and the gear, but something about JUCO and that the intimacy of it, the environment, even though it may not have been the numbers as big, the environment of the game felt like it was that big, and it has a different type of electricity like you talked about. So that part, and then hearing from former players after they've gone through life and realized, like, wait a minute, coach, all that stuff you were doing, and they thank you for being hard on them, or they thank you for holding them accountable and hold them to a high standard. And I think those parts are the parts that make JUCO a little bit different, because you're even as a head coach, you're going to be closer to your guys than you are at the next level, because at the next level there's so much distance, there's bigger campuses, it's just you're just not as quite as much closeness. So I definitely can appreciate those things. So you touched on something also I wanted to ask you about, which is 5 guys of yours went Division I from one team last year. And there's so much, I ask every guest this pretty much, there's so much energy right now around the transfer portal, which if you're in JUCO, you're used to the transfer portal because every year you got to make a new team. So now Division I's are having to experience that. But there's a narrative a little bit that people almost don't want high school anymore, or they don't want JUCO transfers anymore because they just want to get Division I transfers from other Division I's, which is furthest thing from the truth. But with you having 5 guys, that speaks exactly to that narrative not being true. So what do you say about kind of the recruiting the way it is now, as you have guys that play for you and go on to the next level, that people kind of can misunderstand how JUCO recruiting can work? So still a lot of value in JUCO players is what I'm trying to say.
I'll tell you what, the transfer portal has been just so interesting, man. The recycling, and I even told one coach not too long ago, it's almost like if you're not transferring, you're not cool. Now, I'm not going to be hypocritical about this.
There's some truth to that.
I've got a team of transfers this year. I've got a team of second and third year guys. Well, guess what? One of our better players last year transferred out. Thought the grass was greener on the other side. I'm fine with that.
Right.
We had a freshman we thought we'd have back last year. He played so well at Hutch, he got a D1 scholarship. Boy, I'm all for that.
Yep.
But this transfer portal, there's a lot of guys that are transferring that, to be honest with you, probably should be staying where they're at because they're not going to get anything better.
Yep.
And I'll say this flat out. I think the most underrated part of recruiting right now is junior college. We were out at Hutch last year. We had a tremendous win over Pearl River, lost a really tough game to Salt Lake, but I saw just about every team play. That talent level out at Hutch last year, Brian, was good.
Yep.
I mean, there's a lot of talent. And I look at Sincere Parker, our kid at St. Louis U. He's really starting to play well. Jimmy Bell starting at West Virginia. You know, Ty Moore has played really well at Georgia Southern. And the reason I say that is I just think JUCO kids are going to be more prepared to even play than some Division I guys that don't make it someplace.
Yep.
And you know, it's not like those JUCO guys are looking to transfer because the grass is greener. They have to transfer. I mean, they got to move on. And the bottom line to it, you put a kid, and we charter and we do good things here, but you know, JUCO life's a little bit different, man.
Yep.
And you don't have you don't have that those golden streets all the time, man. You have to work and find your way here.
Right.
And there's a love of basketball at this level.
Yep.
So I think any kid that comes through a year or two of a really good JUCO program, they're going to do well. And you know, I still think there's a lot of Jonathan Simmons out there. The kid y'all had a pair ended up in the NBA. By the way, you beat us out for him. So
we did.
Man, I don't know. I think the talent level right now at JUCO is pretty good. And I know there's been prep school and there's the transfer portal, but I think the most underrated part of recruiting right now is JUCO. And I'm biased about that. I know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think even you mentioned Missouri earlier, and Dennis Gates, they're having as good a year as any in the country, along with Jerome Tang at Kansas State. And both those guys have some JUCO guys that are integral parts of their success. And there's something about JUCO that just have a different hunger, a different battle-testedness, a different resilience, a different gratitude and appreciation for – they don't need the bells and whistles. They just know it's in between the lines is how they've kind of gotten where they are. So I think that has a lot to do with it. When you think about coaches that recruit, they say we want to recruit programs and not just players. Mm-hmm. And to me, Moberly area, especially as I've been out and even as I've been in different areas, well, we used to be in the same region in Texas, but now you're in a different area and part of the country, and people consistently talk about recruiting that program as a program because they know there's certain ingredients that their players are going to get from there. What do you take pride in that part of the recruiting process?
First of all, I'll go back to days in East Texas, man, when you had Scott Jernander, you had Ross Hodge, you had Johnny Estelle. Man, that was a coaches league.
Yep.
I mean, there was really good coaches in that league. And I've always thought we could out tough teams, but it was really tough in that region because other people had the same thoughts.
Yep.
And so I just know this. Any kid – We went 2 hours and 15 minutes yesterday, and there was a Division I assistant in here. That was the first time he'd ever seen us practice. And he said, man, I've got to be back here. He said, I wish our guys could see you all work. And, you know, that's kind of our motto. You know, even today, we had a film session 11. We come back this afternoon, a little bit shorter practice day before a game. We work. And I just think, you know, and I always talk to my players and my coaches about this. I want y'all to have an edge, man.
Right.
What's your edge? I need a little internal selfish motivation from you about how good you want to be. And I always tell our guys, there's two things I want to combine. Number one, we want to benefit you. How can we help you? And the second, how can you help us? And how can we combine those two facets?
Yep.
And, you know, I've got a couple of my kids this year that have been battling. They're getting better. They're not in my rotation. I met with them this morning and just said, hey, I appreciate what you're all doing. You got to stay ready. Your times are coming.
Yep.
Because I'm going to tell you, the ability to persevere, the ability to have an edge, what's your internal motivation? I want guys who, to be honest, have a little bit of a chippy attitude, man. And I've got some third-year guys. I've got some transfers. That's one thing we've always told our guys. We might not have anybody back, but that doesn't mean we can't be good at this level.
Right.
And that's what we're battling right now and working through. And so far it's working. Hopefully we'll continue.
Yeah, you touched on a couple of things I want to jump into too, Coach. So one is staff, if you don't mind mentioning about your staff and those young men that are helping you there. And then secondly, if you don't mind just talking about some of the guys that four-year schools should be paying attention to and starting to recruit if they're not already recruiting.
Well, I tell you, I'm real proud of our staff. I've got James Hayes, and James has been with me before, and he came back, and he's been a tremendous help. Then I have Daryl Fletcher, who last year was at Iowa Lakes and has a lot of contacts down in the South. Very good recruiter, and looking forward to what he does for us recruiting. But I tell you what, I'm really proud of. I'm really proud of the 23 coaches I've had coach under me, including one from last year, who have went on Division I.
Yeah,
and I've got 3 current Division I head coaches who worked under me.
Wow.
And so I take a lot of pride. I don't. It's not because of me.
Yeah.
I just take a lot of pride that they chose to work for me.
Yeah.
You know,
Who are those guys, Coach? I didn't do
Steve
enough.
Forbes at Wake Forest,
Yeah.
Matt Figure at Rio Grande,
Yeah.
and Kyle Gerdeman at Lindenwood.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So just real proud of what they've done, and I've not had any part to do with it, but I'm just proud that I was able to be associated with them. And so our assistant coaches, I mean, I tell them all the time, it's kind of like our players. If you can work for me, and I'm not that tough to work for, but I'm going to give you your list every morning. We got our meeting every morning at 10:30.
Yep.
This is what I need done. We talk about everything.
Real quick, Coach, I know we talked about Houston, but they have almost the exact same meeting time and same formula every day.
Do they really?
Yeah. Yep.
That doesn't surprise me. I'll tell you, we meet every morning at 10:30. We'll talk about every player on our board. We'll talk about what we can do to get better. We'll talk about the opponent to some extent, but it's really about, hey, what can we do today to get her? I've got a favorite motto in life: win the day, win the next game.
Yep.
So we focus, what can we do to improve every single day? What can we do to get our backup two guard better?
Yep.
What can we do to improve this kid's mindset?
Yep.
And then what I do every single day, we meet with 4 or 5 players. I'll just pull in. And it's a short 2-minute meeting. Hey, man, I need you to get better in our system. Why, with your athleticism, are you not attacking the offensive glass?
Mm.
You know, and I've got this rule, man. When you're 3, 4, and 5, you're a guard, you're getting back. You're 3, 4, and 5, you don't attack, you're wrong. Because we pound the glass. In fact, one of the greatest compliments I've got was a couple of years ago. Coach said, your best offense is when you all miss it and go get it.
Mm.
Because we put a lot of stock in that.
Yeah.
So anyway, just speaking about staff, I want my staff to be, we always refer to this as our players being bulletproof, man. Nothing phases you. No situation, no referees, no environment.
Yep.
And to be honest with you, I try to get my staff the same way. Now, they don't always appreciate it, probably always. One of my guys who's now, he's doing a really good job at Northwestern State, and they got a heck of a team this year.
They do.
And he told somebody the other day, it got back to me, that, man, you talk about a guy that challenged you every single day. And I appreciated that, because I do. But you know what? Care about my staff, man. I want them going on and doing well. I have a lot of one-year guys, Brian, because they move on.
Yeah.
Our staff last year, the team that got to Hutch, Tim Ward's at Northwestern State. Rashad Lindsay's the head coach at his alma mater, McClure North High School, which is what he wanted to do, was go back and coach high school. I'm real proud of those guys.
Yep.
Rich McBride left me a couple years ago, went to Missouri, now assistant at Lincoln. But, man, just preparing our guys and making them in. I always that they alternate scouts. I will assign both of them an area. For example, Darryl Fletcher has blocking out rebounding. James Hayes has defensive transition.
Hmm.
And they will laugh about this, but they will agree. Their area better be good.
Yeah.
I mean, they better police their area, and if somebody's not getting the job done, they got to come out.
Yep.
And both those guys have done a real good job with their areas.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Talk a little bit about the players, Coach, and then we usually like to end with a funny story. So I'm gonna let you load while you're talking about the players.
We got a team of transfers. Teddy Washington's transferred from Shawnee Community College, played for a really good coach there, John Sparks. And he transferred in. He'd been there 1 year at Pensacola, 1 year at Shawnee. He's a third-year guy, which new age of athletics, right?
Yeah.
And, he's averaging about, I think, 14, 15 points a game for us, having a real good year. Jaheim Tanksley, I just absolutely love. He's 5'8", 5'9", and about as tough as they come. Played 2 years with Frank Phillips, third-year guy. And he's really starting to shoot it well, and he's kind of the leader of our team. Brandon Hall transferred from East Tennessee State, played at the same high school as Alonzo Verge, who was their first-team All-American a few years ago. Just got done playing at Nebraska. And Brandon's just a tough, really all-out warrior type guy. Probably our best all-around player so far has been Trayvon Spillers. He averaged 8 points a game last year at USC Sakahachi, just having a heck of a year this year. Against Indian Hills in our win the other night, he had 30 points, 14 deflections, 13 rebounds, 7 block shots.
Wow.
He's 5 block shots a game, Brian.
That's a motor.
That's a motor. He's a beast and just plays so hard. And he's also averaging 11 rebounds a game for us.
Wow.
He's averaging 12.6 deflections a game, and I'm big on deflections. We chart those, and that's a major stat for us. And then also we have a kid named Rayshawn Ambrose, transferred from our old league, Angelina. And he stepped in and he's really starting to come on for us. Noah Gordon is a transfer from Oney Central Community College, and he's kind of the glue to our defense. And you'll appreciate this. He is so good at ball screen defense, and that is something that is not easy to be good at.
No doubt.
In this day and time.
It's important, though.
Man, I tell you what, he's one of those guys, when he hedges the ball screen, you don't come off. And, that kind of reminds me of your Paris teams. Y'all were really good on edging. And, I'm thinking we got a kid named Xavier Sox. He's a D2 transfer. Maury Womack is a JUCO transfer. They're my top guys.
Yep.
And I always say this, and I think you understand. We don't have forever to get this thing done. We have 1 year together.
No doubt.
1 year. And so, in a nutshell, we're throwing everything we have into this 1 year. Yep. Me and these guys. Now, I've got some freshmen that are really coming on, but the majority of our team is sophomore transfers.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you breaking that down, Coach. And, we always like to end with a funny story and then give you some last words. So any funny story that is it can be in any realm of life. It can be an assistant coach story. It can be a head coach story.
No, man, you put me on the spot. I was so busy talking, I hadn't thought of any at all.
It can be a player story. It can be a funny referee story. It can be a funny travel story. We've heard a little bit of everything, but
I'll give you a couple. I remember one time years ago, one of my favorite referees was a guy named Scott Jones. He was a referee down in Illinois, and we had a pretty good team that year. We were down in Kaskaskia just getting our butts blown out that night. I've jumped up and I said, "Won't you just toss him?" And he said, he looked right at me and he says, "Pat, your team has been really bad tonight, and it's not my fault. But I'll tell you one thing, big guy, you're sticking around to watch the end of this one."
That's good.
Man, I deserve that one. I'll say this. One of the greatest things that has ever happened in my career was getting to coach against Gene Bess.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, from Three Rivers. What do you win? 1,300 games. I mean, just had an unbelievable career. Mm. And I tell you what, I had to get Coach Bess on one night. We went down there to play, and he had just won his 1,000th game. And so we're driving through town. They got this big billboard commemorating his 1,000th win. And we got the arena that night. I said, "Coach Bess," I said, "I'll tell you something, buddy." I said, "That is one heck of a billboard." And Coach Bess, being the modest guy he is, he kind of said, "Oh, Pat, I wish they had put that up there." And I said, No, Coach. Here's the only thing I don't like. They should have had the pictures of those three referees that helped you win 700 of those games, which is not. But I said, Coach Bass is he's one of my heroes. He's a guy that I just have unbelievable respect for. But I had to get him a little bit that night.
That was good. That was a good one, Coach. That was a good one. Did you
have that one? Still remember the days back there. Still remember the days. I'm battling Paris. We're tied, if you remember. I think when you was there, we're tied, man, neck and neck for the conference league, right? Well, we played every team in front of you all. And Ross Hodge would call me every Thursday and every Monday about a scouting report.
Yep.
And you know how stupid I was? I can't. Guess what? Y'all won the league.
Oh, the good old days, Coach. The good old days.
Something that's funny too. I just think there's more fellowship with junior college coaches.
Yeah.
I look at guys coaching still that I still respect so much. Jay Herkelman. I got a chance Saturday night to coach against Jay Harrington, one of my dear friends in this business. And I don't know. There's just something special about JUCO. And people ask me sometimes, how much longer do you plan on doing this? I said, I don't ever think about it. Y'all must think about this a lot longer than I do. I do know one thing. God gives me an opportunity to be a part of young people's lives.
Amen.
He gives me an opportunity to get out here every day. And I love the practices, man. Games are kind of heck sometimes, but practices, man, I thrive on them. Yep. And just the opportunities that God's given me in this business to do some things and hopefully in the end have some good come about because of it. And and that goes far beyond winning or losing.
Yeah, I think that's more than proven, Coach. Your impact on coaches, you already talked about the tree and the impact on players, and not even just them going to Division I. I mean, 185 or whatever number you said, I believe 185 players going Division I head coaches. Like, that's just a small part of the impact, because we know ultimately you're helping make better people, tougher people, more winners in this world that need to be. We all need that. So we appreciate what you're doing.
Well, one more quick story.
Please.
I got the note the other day, a text the other day from one of my former players that I had to get rid of. And he just said, Coach, I really turned a lot of things around, and I want to thank you. And I thought, man, that's why you stay in this business.
Yep.
You know, that's why you do it. It goes, I mean, don't get me wrong, man. We want to win. Oh, but do we want to win?
Yep.
But it's deeper than that.
Yep, absolutely. Well, Coach, we appreciate the time. Congratulations on being National Team of the Week. And we know you're not done. We know you're just scratching the surface of the momentum you guys are going to build from this week. And thanks so much for taking the time, and thanks for all you do for junior college basketball and basketball in general. You're definitely one of those guys that is a model by his example. So thank you for that, Coach.
Well, you enjoy Fort Collins because that's a heck of a place to live out here. So I'm looking forward to visiting sometimes. My son was out there. I never was able to get out there, so I'm looking forward to going out there sometime.
I will, Coach. Keep up the good work. Tell my girl Hannah I said hello too.
I will. She's out there right now. She's having a kind of an exuberant practice, I think, today. So
that sounds about
I'm
right.
Go out here and watch a little bit.
Take a few notes. She's not bad at what she does.
She's real good.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Coach.